The Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung is working on democracy, social justice, and international solidarity. We invite young leaders from all over the world for a program of 5 days here in New York, where we actually look at how the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals can be useful for social change and political work at the national and the local level.
The SDGs are Sustainable Development Goals, which comprise 17 goals that enable economic, social, and environmental well-being.
SDGs are a set of goals that should lead how we do better in society, how we can improve quality of life, how we can become more equal and peaceful societies with strong institutions. And we can do that through leaving no one behind, which is what we are trying to work towards, and also accountability.
The nature of SDG, Left No One Behind, I think is very connected to our work, because in Thailand we focus on the women who always be left behind. So I think it's very good tools or mechanism to help us.
My work is linked with the SDGs, especially with the human rights approach of the SDGs, and how we can use at the national level all the recommendations government receive from UN mechanisms like treaty bodies, special procedures, and the Universal Periodic Review with the SDG implementation as well.
Whenever we are trying to develop plans and then implement programs, we always try to integrate it with the Sustainable Development Goals, so that we will be able to ensure whether we are achieving the major goals of the Sustainable Development Program. So that's how they are really related.
The Academy also taught us a lot of things on how we can monitor and how we can evaluate the SDG agenda back in my country.
So I think that the Agenda 2030, with many of their goals, they're all very interconnected, and I think that they do influence my work a lot, because if we're talking about like sanitation, if we're talking about better infrastructure, if we're talking about safer and more sustainable cities, then all of that falls under the scope of urbanism, and therefore all of these goals have to be achieved in the rural context, but also in the urban context. And therefore, I think that the agenda really is significant for my work through the fact that I know that my country has committed itself to doing something.
My everyday work is related to some topics covered by the UN Action Plan, especially topics which are related to employment, decent work, economic growth, gender equality, access to justice, and etc.
In my work, the most important thing about UN is the education equality, because in Mexico, the last year was a very important reform about education, and it's the most important thing that right now implement in my country.
I think always where there's like these intercultural spaces, when you can learn and hear about others people's experience, you can learn and you can see that actually the challenge we face are shared. And also I've seen that here at the UN there's a big sensibility towards the participation of civil society. So I didn't really know that the UN framework was so open to civil society. So maybe I think there's a lot of more chances that I work with UN agency or projects.
I've learned a lot of things from the Academy. I think the most important thing I've learned is how civil society actors or like research actors in the local context or in the national context can collaborate with other players on the global level in order to achieve certain goals and certain outcomes, and I think that was probably the most valuable input of the Academy.
What I learned from the Academy is how important political will is to engage different stakeholders and be able to implement the SDG agenda in Jordan.
I truly believe in the importance of the Agenda 2030, but I'm sure I will leave this Academy with a very strong position, with a very strong conviction on the importance of this agenda to the entire world.